Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hockeyscape podcast. A very special guest today, and we'll get to introducing her right now. She spent some time at the Ohio State University, Clarkson University, overseas in Finland, and is heading into her first season in the Premier Hockey Federation with the Buffalo Buttes. Please welcome goaltender Kassidy Sauvé.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Cass, let's get right into things here. At what age did you start playing hockey?
Probably around three, four, I started getting on the ice, and then I actually went right into being a goalie at probably 5 years old. So,
Now, talk about growing up as a goaltender, kind of the adjustments you had to make as being a goaltender every single year.
yeah, I mean, the game has definitely developed a lot over the years. When I started, obviously, it was just for fun and trying to keep the puck out of the net. Maybe wasn't very good at it, but definitely enjoyed it. And I think over the years, my game has just become a lot more technical. And I think that that's pretty normal, I would say, as you get older to make it more of a technical game that's less tiring. And, but yeah, so I think it just developed into something a little bit more clean over the years.
Now, at what age did you switch to playing just girls hockey?
Um, I would have been turning 17. It was when I was going into grade 11. So,
Now, you had an interesting year where you would have played in the under 16 men's age group there with the Whitby Wildcats. Just talk about your minor midget season and playing with boys during that time.
yeah, that was awesome. Like, such a cool experience to be a part of something like that. And my team that year was really good. I remember, and I'm still friends with a lot of those guys today. But it was just a really cool experience to be on a team that went and won the OMHAs, and then attended the OHL Cup. And I was the first girl to do that. So that was a really cool experience as well. And something that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Now, talk about heading into the OHL draft that year. Unfortunately, obviously, you weren't able to get drafted, but just talk about heading in knowing that you might have been able to make history.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see it was done this past year. Obviously, something that I would have loved, but I think hockey at the time had a very different outlook on female hockey players, and just being able to even attend the OHL Cup and all that was a really cool experience. And although I wasn't drafted, I do think that at the end of the day, I knew my path wasn't going to be the OHL. So maybe not the worst thing to kind of give me that, to get drafted and to be in that put in that situation where I'm like, oh, I want to go play in the OHL instead of going the NCAA route, which for a female hockey player realistically is a better path, I would say, just in terms of development and whatnot. So
Now, at what time did you commit to Ohio State, and when did you kind of know that's where you wanted to go?
it would have been around Christmas time of my grade 11 year. Back then, it didn't happen as early as some kids are committing now, but yeah, it was during my first season of girls hockey, that I committed to Ohio State. Um, and I just like kind of had this feeling when I went and visited the campus that that's where I wanted to play hockey. And I mean, it worked out for me. It was a really enjoyable experience. So.
Now, talk about heading into your first college game. What were the nerves like?
Oh my gosh, so nervous. Yeah, it definitely was probably the most nervous I've ever been to play a hockey game. You work all those years to get to that point, and I started in my first college game, which was pretty cool. I don't remember how it went, but I think it went pretty well. Um, but yeah, it's just, I mean, you work so hard for something like that. Obviously, you want it to go well, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm like pretty sure that it went well. So
Now, you spent a bit of 4 seasons at Ohio State. Just talk about your time there and how it helped you become the player you are today.
yeah, I feel like there was a lot that happened in 4 years. I played my freshman season. I played the first 13 games straight, and then I started having pain in my hips. So I ended up getting an MRI and found out that I had a labral tear on the left side. So finished out the season with quite a bit of pain, and then was set to get surgery in the off season. So I got one hip done, and then in the fall, my right hip was bothering me still. So they did an MRI on that hip, and it also had a labral tear. So then I got that one repaired as well, and that took me out for my the duration of my whole sophomore season. So I just focused on rehab and recovering. And then came back my junior, I guess it would have been my redshirt sophomore year, junior year academically. Came back and had a pretty good season, which was really surprising considering I was coming off of two pretty extensive surgeries. Got All-American that year, which was such an honor. And then played one more year at Ohio State. And then ultimately at the end of all of that, I had an extra year of eligibility left just because of the hip surgeries. So I wanted to further my education. So I ended up getting my master's at Clarkson, and I was able to play while doing so. So kind of worked out academically.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Clarkson a little bit here. Just talk about what kind of led the decision of switching to Clarkson and why you wanted to go there.
I mean, obviously they have a very good hockey program, so that was definitely a contributing factor. But the big thing for me was being a female athlete, you have to make good decisions academically. And while Ohio State didn't have a 1-year MBA program or any master's program that was 1 year at the time, Clarkson did. So it ultimately just came down to academically making a decision that was going to benefit my future. So yeah, it was, I mean, obviously worked out that they had a great hockey team, but the huge contributing factor to that one was the academic side of things for sure.
Now, after that, you headed to play with the PWHPA. Just talk about your time the last little while with them and what that kind of experience was like.
Yeah, that was a really, really good experience. I mean, I got to play alongside some unbelievable hockey players, some national team players like Marie-Philippe Poulin. And I mean, there's endless names that you can look up that they're all unbelievable hockey players. So that was really fun. In my first year, I was in like the New England area. So playing with a lot of the US national team girls, which was pretty cool to meet them and get to know them. And then year two, although COVID, I was with the Calgary Hub, where we had one showcase in Calgary at the end of the year, which was a super cool experience as well. Everything was always extremely well organized. And I mean, what they're trying to do for the game is unbelievable. And I do think that it will pay off in the near future. And then the year after that, I ended up in Toronto. And ultimately, just with COVID still being so persistent in Canada, I got an offer to go to Finland, and there was going to be a lot of games and volume there. So I went to Finland to finish out the rest of that year.
So as you mentioned, they're heading over to Finland. 8 games played, 8-0 record, 0.88 goals against average, and a 964 save percentage. Just talk about your experience as a whole over in Finland and the success you were able to have.
Yeah, Finland was like it was a really cool experience. I mean, I've never had the opportunity to do something like that yet. And I did genuinely think about going back there for next season, just because the people are unbelievable. The hockey was good, and you're treated quite well. So I definitely considered going back there this year, but ultimately wanted to stay closer to home. But it was such a cool experience. I mean, you're playing against a lot of the Finnish national team players. So again, extremely high caliber. And it's just cool to see like a professional league in a different country doing great things for women's hockey. So that was really cool to see a different perspective on that as well.
Now, talk about leading up to the decision to sign with Buffalo for this season and how excited you are to be with the Buttes.
Yeah, I think honestly, the biggest part of my decision process that I took into account, especially as to why I didn't go back to Finland, was I have two really young nieces. One's 3 and one's under 1. And my big thing was I wanted to be able to play hockey in front of them. And Buffalo is really close to home for my family. Obviously, I have to cross the border and whatnot, but it does give them an opportunity to watch me play, which is really important to me. And when working with Buffalo and having conversations, I felt like there was so much like openness and excitement around the coaching staff and the management team that it was really honestly hard to not go and play for them, just because it seemed like such a good culture to go into. So I'm really excited. I do think it's going to be a really amazing experience. And I think having more volume in games is going to be exactly what I need next year.
Now, going back to Finland a little bit, was there any times where you had kind of any experiences over there where you didn't know what maybe something in the grocery store was or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, we had there's 3 North Americans on the team, and we all lived together, which was nice because we were able to kind of help each other out and navigate a different language. But I mean, everyone there is extremely friendly in terms of like trying to speak English, especially if you try and say like thank you in Finnish or something like that. They know you're not from there, and they definitely try and help you out. But there was one time we were in the grocery store and we saw this like giant machine, and we saw pineapples next to it. So we were trying to figure out how to core these pineapples, but it was so cool because you don't see stuff like that in Toronto or whatever. Like, it was so cool. We took a video of the whole process of this pineapple being cored, and then we were like so shocked, and the girls on our team were like, yeah, that's pretty normal here. Like, you can get all kinds of stuff like that at the grocery stores. So
Now, talk about adjusting to life over in Finland. Was it hard at first?
I didn't have too much of a hard time. I mean, I knew it was only going to be 3 months at most that I was away from home. So I went into it like super wide-eyed, very excited. So I don't think for me it was that big of an adjustment. I can imagine if it was a longer term stay, it would be a little bit more difficult. But I was extremely excited to join the team, and having communicated with Nora prior to going there and knowing that I had those big shoes to fill, I was really excited to be able to do that and to be a part of helping a team make the playoffs and whatnot. So
Now, talk about what you've kind of learned over the years of playing girls hockey and what you kind of see changing in the game that you love.
I had a really hard time transitioning from boys hockey. I struggled for my first probably 6 months. I just like couldn't get a hang of the game, which is crazy to think that you can play at such like an elite level with boys and then go to the women's game, equal caliber, like very talented players, and just not compete. And I think the big thing for me, and like no hate on men's hockey, but girls are really smart on the ice and they make really, really good decisions. And I was an athletic boy goalie essentially. So I would slide over and try and make a save, and a girl would pass it back. Like they have a little bit more time to make decisions and whatnot, obviously, because they're not going to get cranked. But I think just learning to be as smart as the other female hockey players on the ice was the big thing. And I do think it's pretty cool to watch younger girls play now and see how talented they are, because I don't think when I was playing, like, the hockey was really good, but kids now are so talented and so fast and have all the skills, which is really great to see.
Now, for the young aspiring um, girl athletes, what kind of advice would you give them that are coming up right now?
I think just like my big thing, and my parents always pushed this on my brother and I, was if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. And I was always one that absolutely loved hockey. I loved everything about it. I still do. But what we did in the summer, like I hardly played hockey in the summer, the odd goalie camp here and there. But my parents made sure that my brother and I got involved in other activities and sports. I played a lot of soccer growing up, and I think just being an all-around athlete is way more important than just honing your skills on the ice. I do think that being able to do other things is extremely important. And I would say do those until you can't anymore, like until it becomes a risk, obviously, with if you're being recruited or whatever. But yeah, just have fun, get outside and be a kid. I think that's honestly the biggest thing.
Now, growing up, were you just into hockey, or did you play any other sports?
Yeah, I actually played quite a few other sports. I played soccer, basketball, volleyball, lacrosse with my brother briefly. Wasn't a huge fan. Yeah, but like pretty much everything. I mean, my parents made sure we were outside a lot doing a bunch of different activities and camps and stuff like that that weren't necessarily hockey. So it was nice. It was good to be able to do other things.
Now, during the season, what does your kind of daily routine look like to get
Um,
focused?
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty picky. I have very like I'm not strict with my diet, but I do eat pretty similar meals because I know what to expect out of them. So I think that's the big thing for me is like my nutrition. Um, I do like training throughout the season. I'm like not someone that just stops training and just plays. So I do like maintaining my strength and my speed throughout the season. But by the looks of it, with Buffalo, we'll be practicing 4 days a week, and then obviously workouts as well, and then games on Saturday and Sundays. So I'm excited to get. It's been a minute since I've had like a almost like a college style routine, and I'm really excited for that. Just without the schoolwork, obviously, but to have like a day-to-day focus and practices leading up to big weekends and whatnot. So
Now, something you'll experience this year with Buffalo, which you probably haven't done since you were with the Whitby Wildcats, is you'll have to play games in one country and then travel across the border for some other games. So just talk about how you'll kind of adapt to doing that again.
yeah, I mean, at least I think. I mean, granted, the only place we'll go to is Toronto, and I know it's a bus trip, which will be pretty cool. I actually am a huge fan of bus trips. I like being able to get to know my teammates, and I think that's a great place to do it because you're literally all stuck in one space together. So yeah, I'm excited. I think that'll be great for our team and in terms of like building a culture and bonding. And the big thing for me is the bus trip to Toronto is going to be pretty exciting because I do know that my family is going to be at those games for sure. So I'll definitely have a heightened level of excitement for coming across the border and coming home. So
Yeah, as you mentioned there, obviously it'll be a little bit of a homecoming thing for you. So just talk a little bit about that and how excited you are to finally be able to play in Toronto in front of your family.
yeah, I'm really excited, especially my one niece. Obviously, the 1 year old, well, almost 1 year old, doesn't really know what's happening in life yet. Totally fine. But the other one is like at a stage where she's getting pretty aware, and she has this bad association with hockey because every time I say I have hockey, I've left her for like a long period of time. So I'm excited for her to like be able to have a good mental association with hockey and be like, oh, my aunt is playing hockey. I can actually go watch her play. So I think for me, like that's the big thing. And I mean, my parents haven't been able to see me play in person in, gosh, probably 3 years because of COVID. So just honestly being able to see them in the stands again, they've been such a huge part of this process for me. And I honestly just want to pay tribute to them and like have them there cheering me on. So
Now, talk a little bit about the Butte organization, any of the teammates you've kind of met so far, and just your experiences so far with the team.
So I went down to training camp, and they had a training camp about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I met all of the staff in person, which was great. They're awesome. I'm really excited to work with them. In terms of teammates, the only ones I met really are the girls that I knew previously. So I played in college with Claudia Kepler. We actually lived together. So that's pretty cool. And then there's another girl, Michaela Boyle, that I played with in college as well. So that'll be cool to kind of be back on the ice with both of them. There's a couple of girls from the U18 national team that I played with as well. So I do know quite a few of the girls quite well, and I've texted with some of them. So it's been nice getting to know people. But yeah, I think like I'm just really excited, honestly, to meet the people that I haven't talked to yet or I haven't met yet. I think it'll be a really good environment.
Now, talk a little bit about the city of Buffalo and how excited you are to be a part of a hockey team that's in a great city like that.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Buffalo fans are awesome, and I've had a little bit of interaction with them on Twitter, and I'm really excited to just interact with the fans after games and whatnot, and get to know people that are huge supporters of the Buttes. But yeah, from what I've heard, the fans are great, so I'm really looking forward to meeting them and getting to know them.
Now, I'll give you a chance here to send out a message to Butte fans. Can they kind of expect from you as a player, and how excited are you to get the season going?
I mean, I'm extremely competitive. I have a great work ethic, and something that I think is a attribute to my game is my puck handling abilities. So I'm really excited to be able to showcase kind of all of those skills alongside some extremely talented teammates. And I do think that we've put together a really good team this year. So it'll be great to just show our fans like what we're able to do and at what level we're able to compete at.
Now, growing up, did you have any hero or idol that you kind of looked up to try and model your game after?
Yeah, my favorite goalie growing up, well, favorite female goalie growing up was Charlene Labonte. She was on the Canadian national team. I had the pleasure of being in some of her camps when I was younger and getting to know her on more of a personal level. So yeah, so she would be my female goalie role model. And then my favorite goalie in the NHL growing up was Ed Belfour. I have his jersey signed and everything. I was a huge fan. So yeah, so I would say I tried to model my style after both of them, but obviously with the evolution of the game now, I would say it's probably less like them now. But at the time, I for sure did a lot of pad stacks and stuff just to be like Ed Belfour. So
Now, we'll have some fun here before we wrap up with a little getting to know you. What's your favorite hockey team?
I am a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I have been since I was a kid, so it's been rough.
Now, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I would live, that's a good one. Probably like honestly on a beach anywhere. Hawaii, Mexico, anywhere on a beach.
Now, if you could play on any team in the world, professional or in the women's leagues, where would it be?
I'm gonna go with Buffalo on that one. I'm really excited to be playing there, and I think it's gonna be great. So
Now, if there was one song that you could choose to kind of describe your life, what would it be?
there's a song by my favorite singer. His name's Dermot Kennedy. It's called The Corner. And it's essentially about like you like not being one to fold and not being one to give up. And I do think that that is extremely relative to hockey and my life as a whole.
Now, if your teammates could choose one word to describe you, what would it be?
Um, I would say loyal, both on and off the ice. Like I will do whatever for my teammates. I'll compete and I'll be loyal to them. And if someone ever needs anything, I'm always one to be there for my teammates and support them through like good and bad times.
Now, what is your favorite family vacation throughout your life?
We went to the Bahamas around Christmas time when I was like in grade 6, and it was so much fun. It was really cool to be there for Christmas. So I would say probably that one. But we did a lot of like road trips and stuff too over the years. Some for hockey, some for just family vacation. But I would definitely say the Bahamas.
Now, what's something no one else knows about you?
Um, I really like poetry and photography.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie. I used to really like Avatar, but I rewatched it not too long ago and I wasn't as impressed. So I don't know if like young me was super impressed by the graphics and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I guess Avatar.
Now, one thing I've kind of seen through social media over the last couple of years is a lot of girls on the Buffalo Buttes are huge into fashion. So, is there one thing that maybe you used to love as a kid that you wish they could bring back right now?
I don't think so. Honestly, just I was like one of those kids that wore my brother's clothing, to be honest with you, because he was so cool to me and obviously still is, but not necessarily bring it back because I dressed like my brother all the time, but that I guess was one thing as a kid that I always did. So
Now, talk a little bit about your brother, just kind of what he did for you as a kid and being able to look up to him.
So he was a defenseman, and we got to play together every other year growing up. So that was really cool. Made it easier on my parents every other year too. But he's always been extremely supportive of my hockey, and he's always been there for me throughout it. And we have a really good relationship. And obviously, with his daughters being in my life now, I get to see them a lot, which is great. But yeah, we're like best friends. So it's pretty cool to have someone like that in my life that I know is always going to be there for me.
Now, if the Buffalo Buttes were to sign a goaltender tomorrow to be your goalie partner, anyone in the world, who would you want it to be?
I'm going to go back to my favorite goalie and say Charlene Labonte. Obviously, she's retired now, but that would be a dream come true. That'd be awesome.
Now, one person you were able to, I believe, train with a little bit in camp was Carly Jackson. Obviously, she's going to be on the Toronto Six this year, but just talk about her attitude around the team because I've heard she's quite the character in the dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know her all that well, like on a personal level, but from what I've heard, great teammate, great person, someone you love to have around and that can really like lighten the mood and whatnot. I did do a couple like Hockey Canada camps with her throughout the years, and she has a great work ethic. She's extremely talented, and I do think that the energy she has will be great in Toronto, and I'm sure she'll gain a lot of fans' respect there as well.
Absolutely. Now, if you could choose one person in your life who knows you the best, who would it be?
Um, Probably my mom and dad. Can't pick one. I'm equally open with both of them. I have a really good relationship with them, and as well as my grandma too. I talk to my grandma on the phone almost every day, so we have a really good relationship. She knows everything that's going on in my life at all times, which is pretty cool. Like we keep each other up to date. We talk on the phone, and she's like probably I would say one of my best friends. So yeah.
Now, if you were to have coffee with one celebrity tomorrow, who would it be?
Um, I'm gonna go with Justin Bieber, just because he's Canadian, and you know what? No, scratch that. I'm gonna go with my favorite singer, Dermot Kennedy. I feel like he's a very interesting guy, and I feel like he would have a lot of knowledgeable things to say. So
Now, finally, here before we wrap up, obviously heading into NHL free agency as a Leaf fan, what are your expectations for the team this coming season?
I'm excited to see what happens with their goaltending situation, especially. I know there's been some talk around Matt Murray, so I'm curious to see what happens on that front. But yeah, I don't really know what to expect. I feel like the Leafs throw curveballs all the time. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens on the goalie end of things, and hoping whether they keep Campbell or not, they have a good goaltending situation for next year, and he can go a little bit further in the playoffs, maybe.
Absolutely. Well, on behalf of the listeners, I'd like to thank you for coming on here today, Cassidy. It's been a pleasure, and we can't wait to see you have success with the Buffalo Buttes next season.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.